Occupied. Oh, hi. Well, you seem to have caught me at a weird time. I was preparing for the next video. Man, weird these days. All these cheap decks that I'm giving you, and they cost just $30. Or do they? What if they don't? Now you see, even though I do say that these things cost $13, $15, $30, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be paying $15, $13, $30, whatever, for it. You might actually have to pay more because I don't know where you live and I don't know what's available to you. Plus, I don't know how to send things to you. I'm figuring that out now. In this video, I'm going to show you guys exactly why they might cost a little bit more and how you can get around it and at least get as close to possible for the price that I say that you can pay for these decks. First thing I want to mention is that deck lists and decks are just what the price is. The way we do our price is based on a few factors, and usually it's the TCG Player card market. The reason why we use TCG Player is a whole other thing. Essentially, they just have a lot of sellers, and the average prices they say each card is worth is usually what we go by. There are a few things that actually affect the deck's price and the reason why it goes up when you're about to actually buy one of these decks. And the things that really affect those are going to be like price minimums, shipping costs, and availability. Depending on the seller or the way you're trying to get those cards, each of those will play a factor as to why it's not exactly the lowest price. There are a few ways to get around it, and we can get into that in just a little bit, but the first and foremost thing you want to do is go to your friendly local game store. As explanation point would say, FLUGS for short. How to get to your friendly local game store. Hit the open road. Don't get too concerned if you can't find it within the first hour. Make sure to check your watch to see if you could still make it on time. If you find yourself lost inside the forest of wandering souls, don't get scared. Appreciate the beauty that happens to be around you. Get back in your car and keep a close eye. Fill up quick so they don't find you. Keep driving until the weather changes. Oh, there it is. Make sure to bring the tome from the forest of wandering souls that you acquired on that journey. They were closed. When buying decks, you're usually going to have just a few options. Whatever local game stores you do have, Card Kingdom and TCG Player. I use these two as the main ones. I do know others exist like Star City, Card Market, etc. I live in the US and I also do think that the things that I talk about in this can apply to either of those as well. Walmart and every other place might just tack on cards so that they can get some more profit, but your local game store actually relies on you going in to see them to get their profit and to make sure they stay in business. So support them whenever you can and go and visit them. I'm sure they're great people, but they also have things called price minimums. Some of them, not all of them do. Call ahead to find out if they really do. Price minimums essentially are saying, hey, the minimum price for this kind of card or for each card is going to be something. And a lot of times it's just a few cents. I know Card Kingdoms, from what I could tell, it's about 35 cents. I've seen some listed as less than, but they aren't available for less than. So I'm just assuming Card Kingdoms is 35 cents. But when going to your friendly local game store, you'll be giving an opportunity to a local business to stay in business. So always check them out first. If you have a whole list that you want to give them, the best way to do it is to call them or contact them from their website or from however they want to be contacted to see if they can get you a list. Usually you'd want to probably type it out so that they can read it, give them your name, number, email address. That way they can get back to you when it does get actually pulled, but give them time to do it because they are people and sometimes there's just one of them. So give them the time to actually pull the cards, and they might not have everything, but at least you're helping a local business do what they need to do. The existence for price minimums might seem like it's just companies being greedy, but it's not. There's a cost analysis that goes into that because they're like, well, we can't keep every single bulk common here, or we can't keep every single bulk whatever. So they just kind of put a minimum on it to be like, this will at least make us money. Because if you go in and buy 100 cards that are 12 cents each, sure, that's 12 bucks that you're going to pay them if they don't put a price minimum on it. And odds are they're going to spend more time and more money on the business just getting those cards than you are actually paying them. I know it's the literal price they pay for running that kind of a business, but those price minimums at least help make it more worth it for the people that do come in and just buy bulk commons or bulk whatever, because it gives them a better opportunity to keep selling cards. If you don't have a friendly local game store, or you just don't like your local game store, which, shame, you can always build from two other options. You got Card Kingdom or TCG Player. And Card Market and Star City and etc. I know. They're both pretty viable options, and I'm not sponsored like every other YouTuber by either of those, so I can give my honest current opinion on both of them. The best way to get a single deck for closest that you possibly can to the price that's listed is through Card Kingdom. Card Kingdom is a single vendor. It is its own store, has its own storage, and it will get you all the cards that they own. It is one shipping cost. That's just one. That will help you out to get closer to the price that we're saying here. The other part of it is that there are price minimums. So the 35 cents, like I said before, per card is usually what I'm seeing their minimum being. So when your deck has a bunch of cards and a good like 50 of them are 2 cents, and that's why the deck was $13. Now you bump that up to 35 cents, and that's adding 33 cents per card, which is another bit of money. Plus, if they have not that printing, it might be $1 or $2 that it goes up to, because different printings might just be that much more expensive. And even though it is one source of cards, you still usually get about 50, maybe 60 bucks for one of the really cheap decks. But if you just want to get one, that's how much you're gonna pay. On average. There are exceptions, and there's obviously ways that you probably could pay less. But I mean, for $2 for shipping, and plus if you do pay for that $35 2-day shipping, they get it to you pretty quickly. I can at least vouch for that. So if you really do want to, you can go to them and they'll keep you in priority. But otherwise, you're at the whims of what they have on hand. And if it's not the pricing for the printing that is that price, then you're kind of screwed unless you want to try and go with the other option, which is TCG Player. TCG Player is the eBay of card markets. It's essentially facilitating a bunch of sellers to come in and sell the cards that they want of their own stock. Just like eBay, they verify a lot of the stuff that comes in, and they'll make sure that certain sellers have good records, and they can put them in a tier list that gives you more confidence in what you're going to buy. I have had issues in the past with TCG Player, and I have had ordered like it was either a land tax or a doubling season. Either way, never got it, and it took a lot of time to get my money back for it. But don't let that scare you, because I've had plenty of success, and that felt more like a one-off at this point. Either way, what I will tell you is that TCG Player is the place that you should go, because each and every card pricing usually is based on their market averages. So each printing from each seller is going to group together inside TCG Player, and you're going to see exactly how much they think that it's worth, and the market shifts and flows on that. So every single time you build a deck that's using TCG Player prices, they're using pretty much the market average value. And that's what I use when I value out my decks. The only problem is TCG Player doesn't come from one source. This is every single store, every single minimum pricing that is just available. So you would have to pick a card from a store, pay that store shipping, and then pay another store separate shipping for a card. You won't deal with price minimums in this case, for the most part. Some may implement them, but it's pretty rare on TCG Player to actually notice that. But for the most part, you are getting a lot of different vendors and a lot of different shipping to pay. This is the most drastic change, where you'll see it go from about $15 to like $90, because each place that has the cards at the price that you think that they're going to be good at, they might charge $3 to $5 shipping. They might just charge $1 shipping. You don't know. So TCG Player can optimize your cart and do that, and we can get into that just a little bit later. The whole point of this is that if you want to, you can use TCG Player to buy multiple decks to get the total you pay split amongst them much closer to the actual price of the decks that you want to buy. First thing you got to do is optimize a cart though. So let me just show you how to do that real quick at TCG Player so that you're not totally lost and confused. So we're going to start off by just showing you what one deck looks like. I have a few open, but we're just going to try and buy Mr. House. So we go to Mass Entry, and then we're going to go to the Mr. House page on Moxfield, More, Export, and then you click Copy for MTGO, and then you can just paste it in there. It's the easiest way to do it. You can get rid of any spaces. I get rid of the basics because those aren't included in the price of the deck. Get rid of any of the things that they can't see. These are just some odd ends and ends. I just can't see some of them, but they're not really expensive. So the total price, you could just add probably $1 by the end of it. Anyway, our cart's looking at about $188.97. That's a lot, especially from a $33 deck. So let's unclick Keep Current Printings, Advanced Rules, and then change it so that we get any condition. Most of the time, you're not going to get cards that are snapped in half. They're going to be pretty okay. They're pretty strict on their own thing. So $70.84. That is a $36.94 difference from the actual cost of the deck. So if we were to go in and get, I don't know, let's say Emery, Mr. Elminster, Zada, and Joven, get rid of all the basics, and if there's any cards I can't find, we'll go ahead and just take those out too. So I'd say just add $10 if you really think that that's going to be a huge impact. For the most part, they're cents, so it's not that much of an impact. So it looks already really bad. It's going to get a little bit worse at 15, 38, 10. That's not the price we're going to be paying at all. I'm pretty sure it just picked a bad printing, and some of the items have been moved to save for later. A lot of times it's because they reprint in a new set, and for some reason TCG Player likes to pick those new cards that aren't quite out yet, but they still use about market value for the rest of it. So if we look at what we got, let's just say we get that, don't save the same printings, any condition, optimize. It took a little bit, so I did speed it up, but it does optimize, and it gets much, much better at $163.52. Much, much lower, but still a little bit more than the $70 we were going to pay. But keep in mind, this is for, what, 5 decks? So let's add up the total price of each of the decks together, just to get an idea of what we're doing here. So we have $108 minus the $163. It means we're looking at about $55.43 difference from what you would pay if it was just listed as the price from what it was. And this also includes shipping, so that's not really bad. So that $36.94 going up to $55.43, honestly, pretty nice. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, that still doesn't seem fair. Why would it just give you a $30 price tag when in reality you're going to be paying $95? To be honest, every person's different. Every person lives in a different spot. The shipping is always going to be different per person, and the shipping is going to be different based on availability of whoever is going to be shipping it. The calculation that it needs to do to find out which card is coming from which seller and what price is very, very difficult to track. And at that point, it's going to change so often and so much that it wouldn't be a good baseline metric to go by. And you don't usually see this kind of thing when you get to a deck that's like $600, because if you're paying for 2 cards that total $80 and then they're like, oh, it's a $2 shipping, that doesn't really mean much because you already are paying $80. That's why when you're buying a budget deck, it might actually seem a little bit disingenuous, but it truly is the best way to track how much these things cost. It's kind of going to an extreme, and if you can buy a good handful of these at a time, you're essentially going to get it for the price that we said anyway. How did I wrap this up? Hi, I'm Jim Brocody. First thing I want to say, I love training. I like to make my body be able to lift the entire total weight of a Toyota Camry. My favorite thing to do is lift. Second thing, I like to train my mind. Third thing, love parasocial relationships. Best part of Magic is Commander's politics. I think you should join the Discord. It would make it a really fun time if you check the top link in the description to see exactly what my Discord stuff is going to do. Also, if you like and subscribe, that's going to make my channel get the gains that I think we all kind of want. Am I right? Yeah, there's nobody else here. I'm alone. Wow, look, we already got a new Discord user. Crazy. What if we had more?
Hello.
Wow, I now have friends. Weird how things work out if you just join the link in the description. All right, you guys can leave.